And let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, Yogendra.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And thanks, Rakesh, Malviya, and other guys for organizing this. And without any further delay, let's get started. So, as we all are working in Power BI reports in day-to-day life and generating very beautiful, useful reports, getting the too many key metrics and output for helping our business and organizations. But the key topic that I found, it's a deployment pipeline. It's a it's not new, but it's like a 1 year old feature that Microsoft launched, and it's still evolving because of the file type that we have in Power BI. It doesn't support the 100% version control and DevOps. So that area is still evolving, but based upon my industry experience, this is the topic that I came up here. So most of you know me already. I'm a Yogendra Bharadwaj. I'm MCT, Azure Solution Architect, data engineer and all. Okay, you can read this slide later, so I'm not going to talk about this much. So the agenda for today is, first, before I talk about the deployment pipeline, what are the key challenges in managing enterprise scale Power BI report? Then we will talk about the deployment pipeline, what is the prerequisite, how to set up and how to execute pipeline. Then we'll talk about the partial deployment. Instead of doing the entire file deployment, how I can just deploy the one particular piece in the production. Next is the troubleshooting steps for the deployment pipeline. Last, we will go for the Q&A round. So as you can see, right, before I talk about the deployment pipeline, these are the basic questions that comes in developer mind. What is the best approach to manage Power BI report UI and model file? Because by default, we keep both in the same file. But if we keep both in the same file, our file is keep getting the size increase based upon the amount of data we load. So file size increase. So again, how to manage the large file size? As our data is too much, then whenever we refresh, our report refresh takes time. So whenever we writing any measure, any action we are performing, taking too much time when we need the new data or something. What is the best way for multiple report developers to collaborate on the same report? Right now, the limitation is only one person can work on one report. But how multiple developer can work on one report? Can I compare my Power BI desktop file with Power BI online service? Or maybe, I am working on my Power BI file and I give the file to my friend as well, and he is also working on the same file, but how I can compare the changes? Last but not least, do we have any version control system for Power BI? So these are the basic questions that every developer, Power BI developer has in mind. Okay, I will cover all these questions in the last. First, we talk about the deployment pipeline. So deployment pipeline, right now what you are doing, you are directly publishing Power BI report from your desktop and it directly goes to your workspace. But as per the industry standard requirement, you should have multiple environment, at least 3 environment, one for dev, test, and production. To achieve that functionality industry standard, Microsoft has introduced deployment pipeline. We will talk about deployment pipeline, but for the prerequisite is, first of all, you should be a Power BI Pro user. To use this functionality, you should have Power BI Premium Workspace. If your organization does not have Power BI Premium Workspace, you cannot use. Workaround for Power BI Premium Workspace is Microsoft has recently launched PPU, Premium per User. So instead of having an entire Premium Workspace, you can have a small subset. But you need premium capacity. Last, you should have a admin rights on workspace. If you are not having admin rights on workspace, you cannot deploy. You cannot execute. Next thing is your workspace should be new. You cannot use the existing workspace. Workspace, only one workspace can assign to one pipeline. One workspace cannot assign to multiple pipelines. And as I mentioned, right, your workspace should be part of premium capacity. So know your deployment pipeline 1, 2, 3, 4. So first you create a pipeline, assign a workspace, develop and test your content and share with your users. Number 4 is nothing new that you are already doing, but that you are doing with your only one workspace. Power BI version control. Before I talk about how to deploy the file, Power BI does not support a traditional version controlling system. Multiple person cannot work together, like a check-in, check-out. So you also check out, I also check out. It's hard to work on that scenario because the file structure that we have in the Power BI. So only one person can work at a time on one file. There are workaround available for version controlling, but still in the workaround only one person can work. So if you can see, this is the deployment pipeline setup. In the demo, we are going to set up our deployment pipeline like this. So we will have 3 environments: development, test, and production. Once we complete this deployment, we will see a structure like this, where we can see how many data flows we have, how many data set we have, reports and dashboard. And here you will have the option for picking which report or data set you want to deploy or move from development to test. So you select and hit the button deploy to test. It will move your stuff deploy to test. But whatever configuration required for your data set, that you need to perform manually first time. But whenever you redeploying stuff, you don't need to manage anything on your test environment. Similarly, when you're ready, your testing is done, your testing team provided the sign off, you can select the item and deploy to production. So this way you will have 3 different environments. So it will not create any risk or anything into your production environment because you have 3 separate layers. So if you see, as I was talking about, right? So whenever you go to deployment pipeline, once you set up a deployment pipeline, when you go, you will see this compare button. If it will be green or orange. If you can see number 3, it's green. It means there is no differences between test and production environment. Whatever you have in production, whatever same stuff in the test. But if you see number 1, it's orange, it's telling you yellow and green. 2 and 5, 2 is telling you there are 2 existing items having a newer version in your development environment. Plus 5 is showing you there is 5 new item in your development environment which is not exist in your test environment. So let's go to now for the demo. So if you can see, this is my Power BI report file. Okay, this is the same work that we all are doing as a Power BI developer day to day. And if I go to my transform tab, I have my all the data here. Okay, and normally what we do, we go and publish this file. Okay, we select the workspace, we publish this file. We publish both model and UI together. But let's go to first Power BI here. If you can see deployment pipeline here, maybe if you go right now and check, if you are not having a premium workspace and admin rights on those workspace, you will not see this deployment pipeline. So if in case your organization is using deployment pipeline and you are not able to see, it means you are not having a admin rights on premium workspace. Also, you should have Power BI Pro license. If you can see, I have already set up one pipeline here. And it's giving me option to select this one. But let's go to this workspace and delete this premium workspace. Now, if I go to my deployment pipeline, there is nothing. I'm able to create the deployment pipeline, but there is nothing that I can assign. So let's go to first create a new deployment pipeline. If you can see on left hand side, you have an option for deployment pipeline. Create a deployment pipeline, and I'm going to the name DP002. Description based upon your business requirement and functional, you can put it. Now you can see I have my new deployment pipeline ready, but there is nothing that I can assign. So first I will go and create a new workspace. So workspace, nothing has changed. Same way you create the normal workspace, but only here in advanced you will get the option to select premium per user or premium per capacity. I have the license for premium per user, so I'm going to select the premium per user, but you should have either premium per user or premium per capacity. Uh, 01. I have now workspace ready. I will go to my deployment pipeline 02, and if you can see, I have my workspace selection. So as this is one I've created for my dev, I will select here and say assign workspace. Now, once I assign, as I mentioned, you can use one workspace only in one pipeline, not only one pipeline in one environment also. So you can see here, now no more option selection. Again, I will go and create a new pipeline. Before that, I will create my test 01. And make sure you select premium per user or premium per capacity. Until if you are not selecting this, if you use the pro or any other one, it is not going to help you. Okay, and let's go and create one more for prod as well. So now we have our all the workspaces, dev, prod, and test. Let's go to our deployment pipeline here, and now we will assign test to test and prod to prod. Now you can see this green sign, right? I was talking about. So right now there is no differences in any environment because these all are recently created. Now I will go to my file here and I will go and publish my changes. So this time I'm going to publish my changes in development 01. So now going forward, your dev team will have the separate permission group and they will only have the access for your development workspace. And whoever is responsible for change control, they will help you for moving stuff from dev to test and test to prod. As I mentioned, it automatically runs. So when you go, you don't need to hit compare or anything. Whenever you go to your pipeline, it automatically compare for you. When you hit the compare button here, you can see it's clearly telling you that these are the two new items that you need to deploy here. You can make the selection here, deploy to test. This way you are moving your stuff from development to test. While this is happening, if I go here and try to again publish, right now I'm having a access for all prod and test environment, but in your real scenario, developers should not have access to your test and prod environment. So there will be no chance of accidentally publishing report into test or especially in production without signing off testing or QA. So again, you can see this compare is become green to orange now. You hit the compare, same message you are getting here. So here you just deploy here, and you are just deploying using the Power BI online service from one environment to another environment. Okay, now it's saying go to workspace. When you go to your workspace, you can see your file. Okay, now, so this is very straightforward thing that we have for deployment pipeline. Now, hey, Rakesh, do we have any question before I move further, audience?
Yeah, Yogendra.
Yeah, is there any question or I can move further?
Let me just quickly check in the VAT. Yes. As of now, there are no questions, but we'll just give a couple of minutes to attendees if they have any specific questions.
Yep, sure.
So I think Yogendra, let's continue.
Okay, perfect. So guys, this is the end-to-end for the deployment pipeline that we were talking about. So this way you can manage a deployment pipeline. As Power BI had the limitation only one workspace, one app. So if you are having a multiple workspace, you have to set up your multiple deployment pipelines. Now let's talk about the partial deployment. So whatever questions initially, if I go there, all question will start now. I will start covering here. Okay, so now first of all, my deployment takes time, and just take the scenario. You are bringing the data from a database. Once you publish a report, your dataset refresh takes half an hour. So if you are having everything here in one file, and if you are going to redeploy, in that case, your data refresh is going to take half an hour. So until unless the refresh complete, user will not able to access the report. To avoid this scenario, let's just take the example first. I have this total sales. I will go and publish this report quickly here in my dev environment. Once I publish this report here in dev environment, if I go to my dev workspace, deployment file, still deployment not completed. I think it's done now. Yep, I have pasted. So you can see, right, we are getting after decimal two values, right? So up to two places of decimal. Now the business requirement has changed, and this is a very minor change. I will say it's a cosmetic change. They say, okay, remove this decimal after decimal value, just round up. In that case, if you go to your Power BI report, you go here and say 0. Now you remove this. But now, what happened, right? If you are going to publish this file, again, that my half an hour scenario going to becomes in picture because you publish the report and the entire data set refresh takes time. But there is nothing has changed the data, only this cosmetic thing is changing. So what you can do, there is a utility call, we all are helping our communities, and the one of the community called Power BI tips, they are providing a very good tool. Okay, let me show you here. So being as a developer, you can install this tool. It's free of cost, and they have so many external tools for you for to make your life easy in day-to-day Power BI development work. Okay, and whatever new tools comes in picture by any other community, they are so nice. Always they keep updating this stuff, and you can access the here. So now I'm to talk about where is my favorite one? ALM Toolkit. So ALM Toolkit, if you say here, if I click on my ALM Toolkit here, my local file, because I'm triggering from there, just automatically detecting. Now I just need to provide my Power BI service file. So if I go to my data set, settings, server settings, copy this string, this connection string under server settings, and paste the string here. Okay. Okay, now the connection is established and I can see my dataset name. I will hit OK, and it will run comparison automatically for both the environment. I will say hide skip object with same definition. And now you can see actually. So if you can see format string, here is no format string, but left hand side you can see format string. So now this tool provide me the functionality to do the partial deployment. So instead of deploying the whole file, what I can do, I think I showed you, but I'm just going to make double sure I have already shown you this one or not. Let's go to development here, and you can see two decimal places, right? Now let's go to here, validate selection, update. On top left hand side, you can see update, and once you hit the update, ah, okay, I have today only I have enable my that environment. Hey Rakesh, let me know if I'm running over the time. Okay. Okay, let's hit compare again. Okay. Okay, so if before the session finished, right, if this get enabled because it's saying it's 15 minutes, but it's called XMLA read and write that you have to work with your admin to enable it. Once it enable it, you can do the partial deployment, and only in that case it will deploy that particular piece, and no data set refresh anything required. You just go and refresh your report, and you will see your changes. Okay, so this way you can do the partial deployment. Second thing is, if similarly, what you can do, if your peer has provided a file which has changed, you can use here the local desktop file from here. But make sure you file the open, both file needs to be open. Okay, so once the file is open, then you can compare and see the changes. Now, only this tool is works only for your model and measures. Anything related to UI or canvas related stuff, it is doesn't compare anything. So let me come back here. Okay, so now before I go for this, right, sometime one last thing for Power BI deployment that I face, I work with Microsoft team for 2 weeks, and finally they figure out and say, okay, that's how it works. So now what will happen, right? Sometime now if I go and deploy this file, it will just go and override. It will just go and override simply. But in some scenario, if somebody goes and modify any stuff here directly, in that case, the reference get missed. Now, if you try to refresh, it doesn't say anything, but it will not say both are the same file. And whenever you deploy the same file name, but it's deploying multiple times for you. For that, there is no straightforward solution. What you need to do, you need to your lower side, if you are having a problem in your development, then you have to remove everything from your development, okay, unassign on the workspace. Once you clean this development environment, what you can do, you can go here and deploy to previous stage. If you can see right now, this is gray because your dev is not cleaned. So first you clean your dev, then only you can say deploy to previous stage. Similarly for production as well. So if you are having an issue in your test, then you have to clean your test and dev both as well. So this was a very interesting for me, for my learning. Okay, now go back to the here. So what is the best approach to managing Power BI report UI and model? Again, we are going to talk about the tool. First of all, you should keep both in two separate files, two disconnected files, one only for report and one only for model. So if I go here, I will just take the example for this file and I will save this file as demo01. What I will do, okay, I will copy this file here. Let me save this first. Save as. I will say demo file 01 and I will just come back here. Now I'm ready for doing the work. So if you can say a split PBIX file. So initially you can start working in one file, but you can see now your team is growing or your work is growing, then you can use this utility. It will, when you run, okay, when you run, it will ask for your file location. So I created the duplicate file here, demo file 01, and I will give the file name here. Now this utility do all the magic for you, and let's go see the magic here. So if you can see, I was having in my original file with the size of approximately 13 MB. Now the utility has created two files for me. One is report, another is model. Model, most of the times in the preparation analysis work, we complete our model work, and very rarely we have the changes in model. Most of the time we have the changes in report. So you can see how lighter your report is now. But let me close this report now here. Open this report. Oh, what happened to my report? No need to worry. Okay, Power BI is smart enough to handle all these stuff for you. What you do, you just minimize this file and open your model. And the best part for the tool, if you see right, it doesn't modify anything for existing file. Your existing file is as it is. It just created two separate files for you. Okay, but now if you see, this file does not have anything related to UI. And this file, if you go to model, transform data, nothing is there. Okay. Now what I will do, I will go and publish my model to my dev environment. You can see the new model is here now. I don't need now my model. I can close the model file. Okay, but now how to fix this one? So if you can see Power BI dataset on left hand side, you click on Power BI dataset, select your model and create. And see now the magic is happening. So your report is back to normal now. Only the difference is now you have two separate files. In that case, this is a very lighter file you can publish and deploy. And whenever you have this kind of scenarios, in that case, your deployment become very faster because in so many times your data set already refreshed at the whatever the scheduled time is there, but you are just making some minor changes or whatever changes in report, you just push the file. The moment you push the file, immediately user can access the new changes. If you are having a two separate file. Now I will go and publish this one. Yep. So now I have two files here. And going forward, whenever now I'm making any modification into my report, I don't need to push my data set because data set is separate file and nothing has changed in data set. But if you are having a both together, you need to push both files. Okay. So now this way, right? This is the best way, separate two reports. Large file, there is no large file now. Extra refresh will take time. When you are accessing the data from model, it's super fast. I have tried up to 5 million records and it takes like a not more than 20 or 30 seconds. But when I was refreshing into my model, it was taking like a 1 hour. How to limit data in Power BI desktop file to speed report development. Yep. So that's something related to now for your what do you say model. So in model, I say you put the date criteria right after your data source, so you can have the native query and data will trim at the originating as well, so not downloading to you. How multiple report developer can work on same report on model? Definitely, but if you want to work somebody on this report, they can work because now the data source is same. Everybody can access the data source, and once the work is done, they can give the file to you with the new name, and you can copy paste the entire control just like you are copying within your report. So either you are copying the control within the same report or outside between the two reports, it's going to be same as long as data set is same. It will automatically connect everything for you. How multiple developer? How can I limit the amount of data? As I mentioned initially, either you put the limit for number of rows or date criteria. So you can limit the number of rows in model, but make sure you do that right after the source. So as I mentioned to you, right, now you have two files. So automatically your report downtime is reduced because now you do not need to refresh your data sets. So if I go here, if I need to put any filter criteria, I will put right after this, after promote header. So in that case, it will filter at the bring the data. Data will not download for you, whatever criteria you have. Yep, Rakesh, I'm done from my side. Pretty much I've covered everything. Okay. Maybe we can go for question answer round, and if anybody has any question.
Thank you, Gendra. Thank you very much. To the attendees, if you have any questions. I don't think there's any question. I have one question, Yogendra. So can you please highlight some guidelines on the licensing point of view for the deployment pipeline?
Yeah. So this is a premium functionality, number one. Okay. It is only available for premium workspace. So first of all, admin should have Power BI Pro license. With Power BI Pro or free or any other type of license, you cannot access this deployment pipeline. So number one criteria is you should have Power BI Pro license. Number two, you should have premium workspace or premium per user workspace. Third one is you should have admin rights on all the workspace.
Okay.
Yeah. This is pretty much premium functionality, or to support enterprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gendra. Really, it was a nice session, and I learned a lot. And I hope that our attendees also learned a lot from you. Thank you very much, and for your session and be part of this bootcamp.